So we're going to start chapter 5 in our anatomy and terminology class. So chapter 5 deals with the integumentary system, which includes your skin. Another name for skin is cutaneous. We're going to talk about hair and hair follicles. With that, we're going to also talk about erecti pili muscles. We're going to talk about nails. We're going to talk about cutaneous glands that include the sebaceous glands. We're going to talk about sweat glands. We're going to talk about the eccrine and the apocrine glands. We're going to talk about ceruminous glands and mammillary glands. So the integumentary system provides a physical barrier that protects the body from environmental damage. It also regulates body temperature. It also produces vitamin D, and it also plays an important role in sensory perception. So we're going to talk about the structures in the integumentary system. The big one is skin, which is integument. And we're also going to talk about the accessory organs, your accessory structures, which include your hair, your nails, and the exocrine glands, which include our sweat, oil, and mammillary glands. So the structures of the skin covers the entire surface of the body. It is your largest organ. It has a surface area of about 1.8 meters. It's comprised of all 4 tissue types. The skin has several accessory organs, so it's technically an organ system. So the skin has 3 regions, and we're going to talk about the epidermis, the dermis, and the subcutaneous, which is also called the hypodermis. So the first region we're going to talk about is the epidermis. This is the outermost layer of stratified squamous epithelial cells. It contains several sublayers, which include the stratum basal. This is the deepest layer where cells are produced. These new cells are produced by mitosis. New cells divide at the bottom layer called the stratum basal. So new cells push up from the bottom layer and slough off. It takes about 2 to 8 weeks. The next layer we have, again, we started at the bottom. The next layer up is called the stratum spinosum. This provides strength and flexibility. The next layer is the stratum granulosum. Stratum granulosum contains cells that begin to keratinize. Next, you have the stratum luteum. This only occurs in thick skin. It adds an extra layer of protection. And again, this layer is only found in thick skin, and this includes the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. And then we come to the stratum corneum. This is the outermost layer of dead keratinized cells, sometimes called horny cells. This is the layer that continuously sloughs off. The skin that sloughs off is dead. Okay, so let's recap. The epidermis is the thin outer layer. It's made of stratified squamous epithelial cells. It contains several sublayers. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way out. So the first layer is the stratum basal. This is the deepest layer where new cells are produced. These new cells are produced by mitosis. New cells divide at the bottom called the stratum basal, and new cells push up from the bottom layer and they slough off in about 2 to 4 weeks. Next we have the stratum spinosum, provides strength and flexibility. Next layer is the stratum granulosum. This is where cells begin to keratinize. Next we have the stratum luteum. This is as an extra protection layer of protection. This only occurs in thick skin, and thick skin is found in the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet. And the outermost layer is called the stratum corneum. This is, again, the outermost layer. It is dead keratinized cells, sometimes called horny cells. This is the layer that continuously sloughs off. The skin that sloughs off is dead. The epidermis also contains keratin sites. Keratinocytes produce a protein called keratin, and this functions to waterproof the skin. Also in the epidermis are melanocytes. These produce melanin. Melanin is for pigmentation and UV protection. So everyone has roughly the same amount of melanocytes. The difference is the pigment, the amount of pigment produced. So again, everyone has roughly the same amount of melanocytes. The difference in pigment is due to the amount of melanin in those cells. Next, we're going to talk about the function of the epidermis layer. So it acts as a protective barrier against environmental damages, such as pathogens, UV rays, and physical injury. The epidermis prevents water loss through keratinization. It plays a role in immune defense through specialized cells called Langerhans cells. Langerhans cells are specialized immune cells found in the epidermis. Again, the epidermis is the outermost layer of the skin. And for a little side note here, Langerhans cells function to present antigens to T cells that are located in the lymph nodes. This process will initiate an immune response. Next, I want to talk about freckles. So freckles are small, sun-responsive spots caused by an increase in melanin production. They darken with UV exposure and will fade with reduced sun exposure. Next, I want to talk about albinoism. So albinoism is a genetic condition with normal melanocyte numbers, but impaired melanin production. So again, albinism is a genetic condition. People with albinism usually have a normal number of melanocytes, but those melanocytes cannot make enough melanin. This leads to very light skin, leads to a light hair color, and also light colored eyes. They typically have vision problems. They are very sensitive to the sun, so strict sun protection is needed, such as sunscreen, hats, clothing are essential for people who have albinism. The next layer we're going to talk about is the dermis. It is located beneath the epidermis. The dermis is a thicker layer of connective tissue that is divided into two regions. We have the papillary layer and the reticular layer. So the papillary layer is the upper portion made of loose connective tissue. It contains dermi pillae, which interlock with the epidermis and houses capillaries, lymphatic vessels, and sensory neurons. This dermal papillae are responsible for creating the ridges on the surface of the skin that form fingerprints. Again, the dermal papillae are responsible for creating the ridges on the surface of the skin that form fingerprints. Next, we have the reticular layer. This is the deeper portion of the dermis. It's made of dense, irregular connective tissue. It contains larger blood vessels, sweat glands, sebaceous glands, and deep pressure receptors. The dermal layer also contains collagen fibers for strength and elastin fibers for flexibility. Next, let's talk about the function of the dermis layer of the skin. So the dermis layer of the skin provides structural support and elasticity to the skin. It nourishes the epidermis through its rich blood supply. And it houses sensory receptors for detecting touch, pressure, pain, and temperature. The dermis layer also plays a role in thermoregulation by controlling blood flow and sweat production. And the dermis layer also, with the use of the dermal papillae, enhances grip by forming unique ridges seen in your fingerprints, which increase friction for better handling of objects. The next layer we're going to talk about is the subcutaneous layer, or the hypodermis. Hypodermis means under the skin. So let's talk about the structure. The structure of the subcutaneous layer is composed of adipose tissue and loose connective tissue. It contains larger blood vessels and lymphatic vessels that supply the skin. And the fat is stored in this layer, is evenly distributed, differently in males and females, and this is due to hormonal differences. Let's talk about the functions of the subcutaneous layer, or functions of the hypodermis. So one function is insulation. So insulation, it helps regulate body temperature by reducing heat loss. Another function is cushioning. So it absorbs shock and protects underlying muscles and organs from mechanical injury. Another function is energy storage. So it serves as a reservoir for fat or adipose tissue, which can be used for energy during periods of caloric deficit. This layer also anchors the skin into deeper structures such as muscles and bone. This allows the skin to move with flexibility without tearing. Next, we're going to talk about structures within the integumentary system, which include your hair, nails, and glands. First of all, we're going to talk about hair. I'm going to do structure, then function. So hair is composed of keratin. It grows from hair follicles located in the dermis. Each hair follicle consists of a root and a shaft. So the root is the part that's embedded into the skin. You cannot see this part. And the shaft This part extends above the skin surface, and this is the part that you see. So the base of the follicle contains a hair bulb, which surrounds the hair papillae where blood vessels supply nutrients to the growing hair. And hair grows in cycles. The cycle consists of a growth period, a resting period, and a shedding period. So the scalp hair, with the hair on top of your head, has a lifespan of 3 to 4 years, while eyelashes have a shorter lifespan of 3 to 4 months. And then I want to talk about sebaceous glands in here because they're closely associated with hair follicles. So sebaceous glands are closely associated with hair follicles, and they secrete sebum. This is an oily substance that lubricates both hair and skin. It helps prevent dryness and protects against microbial infection. Okay, so now let's talk about the functions of hair. So hair provides insulation by trapping air close to the skin. It aids in sensory detection through hair follicle receptors that respond to touch. Hair also offers protection. It shields the scalp against UV rays. It cushions the skull from trauma. It insulates the head. And eyelashes protect your eyes from debris, and your nose and ear hair protect against foreign particles. So continuing with hair, hair originates in a hair follicle. And how this works is that epidermal cells push down into the dermis. So epidermal cells grow downward into the dermis to form a hair follicle. The follicle cells divide actively. The hair develops within the follicle below the skin surface, and as a growing hair is nourished, the cells continue to divide and are pushed upward through the skin surface. And during this upward movement, the cells die and become keratinized, forming the hair shaft. If we look at our little flow here, we have epidermal cells push down into the dermis, follicle cells divide, hair develops within the follicle below the surface. It is nourished, it divides, it grows through the skin surface. Once it grows through the skin surface, it's keratinized and it is dead. So remember that the hair follicle originates from cells in your epidermis that push downward into the dermis to form a hair follicle. It continues to divide actively. The hair develops within the follicle below the skin surface. This growing hair is nourished. The cells continue to divide and are pushed upward through the skin surface. And during this upward movement, the cells die and become fully keratinized, forming the hair shaft. So next we're going to go over some terms related to hair. We have alopecia. This refers to hair loss. This can be due to genetics. It could be hormonal imbalances. It could be autoimmune conditions, stress or aging. We have androgenic alopecia. This is typically called male pattern baldness. It is the most common form. It's influenced by heredity and hormonal factors. Next we have alopecia areata. This is characterized by a sudden onset of patched hair loss. It is common among children and young adults. That can affect, and it can affect either sex. Next, I want to talk about erector pili and goosebumps. So there's tiny muscles called erector pili. They're attached to hair follicles. So when these muscles contract, so when the erector pili contract, they cause the hair to stand upright, and this results in goosebumps. So this is this is a response. It's part of thermoregulation, and it can also occur in reaction to fear or emotional stimuli. So let's recap here. We have alopecia, it's hair loss, and erector pili are tiny muscles that are attached to hair follicles. And so when erector pili contract, they cause the hair to stand upright. This results in goosebumps. This response is part of thermoregulation, and it can also occur in a reaction to fear or some other emotional stimuli. Okay, we're going to move on to nails. So the structure of nails. So nails are composed of tightly packed, hard, keratinized epithelial cells. They grow from a nail root. This is located beneath the proximal nail fold, which is your cuticle. Nails extend to form nail body, which is the visible portion of your nail. And the free edge. This is the part that extends beyond your fingernail or your fingertip. So the free edge extends beyond your fingertip. So nails grow about 1 millimeter per week. The cuticle is also called epicynum, Eponychium. Again, this is a fold that protects the area between the skin of your finger and the nail plate. And then we also have lacuna. This is a crescent shape. This is the whitish area at the base of your nail. It represents the visible part of the nail matrix, and it plays a role in nail growth. Next, let's talk about the function of nails. So nails protect the distal phalanges. That means your fingertips. It also your toes. So it protects your distal phalanges, your fingertips and toes from mechanical injury. It provides support for delicate fingertip tissues. It enhances the ability to grasp and manipulate small objects. It also assists in scratching and other fine-tuned activities. So next we're going to talk about glands. There are 3 types of glands found in the integumentary system. These are exocrine glands. So the 3 types of glands are sebaceous glands, sweat glands, and mammillary glands. Remember, exocrine glands secrete substances into ducts or directly out of the body. So let's talk about sebaceous glands. These are small sac-like structures located in the dermis. They're closely associated with hair follicles. They secrete sebum. This is an oily substance that moisturizes or lubricates. So it protects the skin and hair. Next we have sweat glands. They're sometimes called sudoriferous glands, Sudoriferous glands. These are tubular structures that are divided into three main types. So we have three types of sweat glands. We have eccrine, C-R-I-N-E glands. These are found all over the body, especially in the palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, and your forehead. The function is primarily thermoregulation. And these glands open to the skin surface. Next, we have apocrine glands, A-P-O-C-R-I-N-E. Apocrine glands. These are found in specific areas like your armpits, your groin, and around your nipples. These are found in open hair follicles. Apocrine glands become active during puberty and produce thicker secretions that when they are broken down by bacteria, they cause body odor. And lastly, we have ceruminous glands. These are specialized glands located in your ear canal that secrete cerumen, C-E-R-U-M-E-N. So cerumen is earwax. It protects the ear canal by trapping dust, debris, and other microorganisms. And lastly, we have mammillary glands. So these are specialized sweat glands located in the breast. They produce milk to nourish infants. And milk production is regulated by a hormone called prolactin. Prolactin is produced by the pituitary gland. I have some additional topics I want to talk about under glands, which includes blackheads and whiteheads, pimples, and acne vulgaris. So let's first talk about whiteheads and blackheads. So these are formed when sebaceous glands produce excessive sebum or excessive oil. So it's the blocking of the hair follicle. So whiteheads are closed pores, while blackheads are open pores where sebum oxidizes and turns black. And then pimples. Pimples develop when blocked pores become infected with bacteria. This leads to inflammation and pus formation. And then we have acne vulgaris. This is a chronic skin condition. It's caused by overproduction of sebum. It's also caused by bacterial infection and an inflammation of the sebaceous glands. So it's common during adolescence, during hormonal changes. So again, acne vulgaris is a chronic skin condition caused by the overproduction of sebum, bacterial infection, and inflammation of the sebaceous glands. It's most common during adolescence due to hormonal changes. So before we move on to the functions of the skin, I want to back up and talk about the importance of sweat glands. So sordiferous glands or sweat glands are crucial for thermoregulation. It helps cool the body and maintain homeostasis. They also aid in secretion, removing salts and metabolic waste from the body. And apocrine glands are linked to body odor, and they play a role in social and sexual communication, pheromones, etc. So next I want to talk about the functions of skin. There's 5 main functions of skin, which include protection, sensation, vitamin D production, excretion, and regulation of body temperature. So first, for protection, the skin acts as a barrier against water loss, pathogens, UV radiation, and physical injuries. The skin also functions for sensation. So the skin contains nerve endings for detecting touch, pressure, pain, and temperature. Fingertips contain the greatest number of touch receptors. And the skin also functions for vitamin D production. So vitamin D leaves the skin and enters the liver and kidneys, where it is converted into a hormone called calcitrol. Calcitrol regulates calcium uptake by the digestive system, as well as cellular metabolism of both calcium and phosphorus. So again, calcium and phosphorus compounds are essential for bone development and mineralization, nervous activity, and muscle contraction. So next I want to talk about rickets. Rickets is a childhood bone disease caused mainly by vitamin D deficiency. So without enough vitamin D, calcium and phosphate don't mineralize in growing bones. So bones become soft and weak. So what you would see in a child that had rickets would be bowed legs or knock knees. You'll see delayed growth. You'll see these children oftentimes have bone pain. And in severe cases, you'll see muscle weakness. Muscles will start to atrophy because it does not have the necessary calcium and phosphorus for muscle contraction. You'll also see a delayed in tooth eruption. So for their teeth to come in, you'll see a delay in their teeth forming in their mouth. So you don't see rickets a lot today. This is due to milk being fortified with vitamin D. We also fortify cereals with various vitamins. And again, this is to help prevent diseases. The next function of skin we're going to talk about is excretion. So the skin can remove waste products through sweat. And lastly, we're going to talk about regulation of body temperature. So the regulation of body temperature is important in homeostasis. And then in a second, we're going to talk about the mechanisms of how skin helps maintain body temperature. Okay, the regulation of body temperature is important for homeostasis. The hypothalamus at the base of the brain is a control center. So there's two ways that skin regulates body temperature. This is blood vessel constriction or dilation, and also sweat glands are turned on and off. So when you're cold, blood vessels in the dermis constrict. This decreases the blood flow to these extremities. The sweat glands are turned off. This diverts blood to important internal organs. This is why when exposed extremities are prone to frostbite. So when your blood is diverted to the internal organs, muscles contract, they start shivering, and this generates heat. And this is where your recti pili muscles come in. They contract, which raises the hair, which produces goosebumps, and this traps heat. So when you're hot, blood vessels dilate, This increases the blood flow to the skin. Sweat glands are turned on, and sweat pulls the heat from the body. So we're going to continue on with regulation of body temperature. So again, the regulation of body temperature is important for homeostasis. The skin helps maintain body temperature through mechanisms like vasodilation, vasoconstriction, and sweat production. So let's go through each of these. So vasodilation is the widening or the dilation of blood vessels. This releases heat and your body cools off. Next, vasoconstriction. This is the narrowing or constriction of blood vessels, and this conserves heat. Next, we have sweat production. So sweat cools off the body through evaporation. Again, sweat production. This is the cooling off of the body. It cools the body off by evaporation. So let's talk about when somebody has issues with temperature regulation. So the body may become hyperthermic or hypothermic. We're going to talk about hyperthermic first. So hyper, H-Y-P-E-R, thermia. This occurs when the body overheats due to prolonged exposure to high temperatures or extreme exertion. So hyperthermia occurs when the body overheats due to prolonged exposure to high temperatures or extreme exertion. This exceeds the body's ability to cool off. It can lead to heat exhaustion or heat stroke. And both of those are life-threatening if untreated. Next, we're going to talk about fever. So fever is a special case of hypothermia. It's also an immune response. So when the body detects an infection, the immune system signals the hypothalamus to increase the body's temperature, causing a fever. This elevated temperature helps slow the growth of pathogens. It also enhances the efficiency of immune cells in fighting the infection. So once the infection is controlled, the hypothalamus restores normal body temperature through sweating and vasodilation. Next, hypothermia, H-Y-P-O, thermia. This happens when the body loses heat faster than it can produce. This causes a dangerous drop in the core temperature. Symptoms include shivering, confusion, and slow bodily functions. It can also be fatal. So this is also something that needs to be addressed promptly. So next we're going to talk about the skin health and disorders. First we have athlete's foot. This is caused by a fungal infection that involves the skin on the toes and the soles of the feet. Next you have impetigo. This is a highly contagious disease, most often occurring in young children. It's caused by a bacterial infection that results in pustules and it crusts over. Next we have candidus. This is caused by a yeast infection, or it's caused by a yeast organism. It develops in moist areas such as the diaper area in infants. Next we have eczema. This is an inflammation of the skin caused by sensitivity to various chemicals. This could be soaps or detergents. It could be in response to certain fabrics or even to heat or dryness. Dandruff. This is a skin disorder not caused by dry scalp, as commonly thought, but it's by an accelerated rate of keratinization in certain areas of the scalp. It produces flaking and itching. Eucardia, or hives. This is an allergic reaction characterized by the appearance of reddish, elevated skin patches. And it often causes people to itch. Next, we have moles. This is due to an overgrowth of melanocytes. Next, we have warts. Warts are due to a virus. They have some type of viral infection. Common conditions include acne, eczema, psoriasis, and fungal infections. And finally, we have skin cancer. So skin cancer. So like all cancer, it begins with a mutation in the skin cell's DNA. It's linked to excessive UV exposure. So skin cancer is categorized by either melanoma or non-melanoma. So non-melanoma cancers include basal cell carcinoma and squamous cell carcinoma. So when I talk about the warning signs for melanoma, there's a rule, it's called the ABCDE rule. This is where we look at when we're examining a mole, these are the signs that we look for the possibility of melanoma. So we look at the symmetry. So is it asymmetrical? So instead of being perfectly round, the mole has an oval or irregular shape. We also look at the mole's borders. So is it irregular? Does it have notches or indentations? C, so we look at the color. Is the color uneven? Several colors may be present. We may have black, brown, tan, red, or blue. Next, we want to look at the diameter. So we look at the diameter of the mole. Is it greater than 6 millimeters? Is it larger than a pencil eraser? And E, is this mole evolving? So has the mole changed size, shape, or color? So again, these are the warning signs for melanoma. And if your mole has any of these features, you should get it checked out by the dermatologist. So we have 3 types of skin cancer. We have melanoma or malignant melanoma. We have squamous cell carcinoma. And we have basal cell carcinoma. So malignant melanoma is the most dangerous type of skin cancer arising from melanocytes. It can spread quickly to other parts of the body. This is called metastasis. It's often caused by intense intermediate UV exposure, such as sunburns. Next, we have squamous cell carcinoma. This develops in the squamous cells of the epidermis. It is most likely to spread It is strongly associated with cumulative UV exposure over time. It's typically described as rough and scaly. And lastly, we have basal cell carcinoma. This is the most common type. It originates in the basal cells of the dermis. It grows slowly and rarely spreads, but it can cause significant damage if left untreated. It's often linked to long-term UV exposure. So again, all three of these skin cancer types begin with a mutation in the skin cells. So a mutation in the DNA. It's linked to UV exposure. So again, the most dangerous form of skin cancer is malignant melanoma. This is also the most serious. The most common form of skin cancer is basal cell carcinoma. So again, most dangerous is malignant melanoma. And the most common skin cancer is basal cell carcinoma. This is also the least serious form of skin cancer. So how can you protect yourself from the sun? So protecting skin against cancer. So you need to avoid excessive sun exposure, especially during the peak hours from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Wear protective clothing such as wide brim hats, sunglasses, and long sleeve shirts. Use sunscreen with an SPF that protects you from both UVA and UVB radiation. It's also important to reapply every 2 hours or after swimming or sweating. Seek shade when you're outdoors for extended periods of time. Avoid tanning beds and artificial UV light sources. This would be the UV sources that they cure your nails with in the salon. Perform regular skin self-examinations to check for new or changing moles, spots, or lesions. And another way to protect yourself against skin cancer is to consult your dermatologist annually or as needed for professional skin evaluations. Next, we're going to talk about burns. So burns are injuries caused by heat, chemicals, electricity. Burns can be caused by radiation or friction. Their severity is determined by the depth and extent. So how deep the burn goes and the extent, how much of your body is affected. So for depth, we have 4 degrees. So the first degree burns only affect the epidermis. Again, first degree burns only affect the epidermis. Symptoms include redness, pain, minor swelling. Healing typically occurs in a few days without scarring. An example of this would be a sunburn. Second degree burns. This is damage to the epidermis and part of the dermis, so it's affecting 2 layers. Symptoms include blistering, intense pain and swelling. Healing can take weeks, and it can lead to scarring. Third degree burns. This destroys the full thickness of skin. So it includes the epidermis, dermis, and sometimes the hypodermis. So this underlying tissue. The affected area may appear white. It may appear charred, or it may appear having a leather appearance. There may be no pain initially due to nerve damage. And finally, 4th degree burns. So 4th degree burn is a burn that goes all the way down to the bone. Next, we're going to talk about extent. So extent is determined by the total body surface area that is affected. You might hear this called TBSA. So burns covering more than 10% of the total body surface area are considered serious, and those exceeding 20% may be considered life-threatening. So next I want to talk about the effects of severe burns on the skin. So severe burns can cause the loss of the protective barrier. This increases the risk of infection by pathogens. Severe burns also cause fluid loss from damaged blood vessels. It can lead to dehydration and shock. Severe burns can also impair thermoregulation due to the destruction of sweat glands. Severe burns can also damage sensory nerves, can reduce the sensation in the affected area. And severe burns can cause severe scarring or constrictures that may impair mobility or function. So sometimes burns are so severe that hospital care is necessary. So in the hospital, you would receive fluid resuscitation. So you would receive IV fluids to replace lost fluids and electrolytes to prevent shock. In the hospital, you would also receive infection control. So this would be wound cleaning or an application of antimicrobial dressings or ointments. You would also receive pain management. This would be administered through medications or a nerve block. Also in the hospital, you may receive a skin graft. So they would use a large, skin grafts are used to cover large areas of skin damage. Skin grafts promote healing and reduce scarring. So if a patient's own skin is used for the graft, it's called an autograft. And if a donor skin is used, it's called heterograft. And heterografts have a higher risk of rejection. And also in the hospital, you may receive rehabilitation. So physical therapy can be done to improve mobility and to prevent contractures. So next I want to talk about wound healing. So wound healing, the epidermal tissue has great regenerative power. So let's talk about how healing occurs. So the tissue injury causes inflammation. So inflammation with redness, swelling, there's heat and pain. So deep wounds rupture blood vessels and the blood fills the wound. So after a blood clot forms, a protective scab develops. Fibroblasts and white blood cells migrate to the wound site. A new epidermis forms and fibroblasts promote tissue regeneration. And this leads to freshly healed skin, freshly healed epidermis. So next we're going to talk about the effects of aging on the skin. So changes include the thinning of the epidermis and dermis layer. So thinning of the epidermis and dermis. There's reduced glandular activity. and there's a loss of elasticity. So this loss of elasticity contributes to wrinkles. There's a dryness and slower healing that occurs with age. And decreased melanin production leads to gray hair. So those are the effects of aging. So next we're going to talk about how skin interacts with other organ systems. So the skin assists the lymphatic system in protecting organs of all body systems by safeguarding all underlying structures from physical damage, infection, pathogens, and radiation. The skin also helps the kidneys regulate water balance and waste excretion by waterproofing the skin to protect the body from water loss and dehydration. The skin aids the skeletal system in storing calcium. So the vitamin D produced by the skin cells that are exposed to UV light is converted to calcium. So continuing on with how the skin interacts with organ systems, the skin serves the nervous system by obtaining sensory information from the environment. Skin contains receptors that can respond to many different types of sensory stimuli, including temperature, pain, light touch, deep pressure, itching, and tickling. The skin helps the muscular system to regulate body temperature. So when muscles contract and ATP is broken down, heat is released. So if body temperature starts to rise above normal, the skin's blood vessels vasodilate. The blood moves to the surface of the body and the heat is released. And cooler temperatures cause vasoconstriction, and less body heat is lost to the environment. So skin survives thanks to the cardiovascular, respiratory, digestive, and renal systems. The lungs supply oxygen to the blood while simultaneously releasing waste, such as carbon dioxide, into the environment. Cardiovascular blood vessels deliver oxygen to muscles and remove their wastes, which are eliminated in urine formed by the kidneys. And the digestive system provides essential nutrients to the skin. The skin also responds to hormones from the endocrine system. So androgens, or male hormones, stimulate hair growth and sebaceous gland excretion, while estrogens stimulate fat deposits in the hypodermis